Most people think that overhead and profit is a percentage problem, but it is actually a history problem because overhead and profit didn't come from insurance, it did not come from estimating software, and it did not come from contractors trying to make more money. It came from construction, from a time when responsibility mattered more than formulas. To understand overhead and profit, you have to go back to how construction worked before modern insurance, late 1800s into the early 1900s. At that time, construction wasn't fragmented the way that it is today. Projects were typically overseen by a master builder or early general contractor, one person responsible for the entire outcome, not just a piece of it. That person did not just do the labor. They walked the site. They coordinated trades face to face. They sequenced work so one mistake did not cause failure later. They absorbed delays, cost overruns, and risk. And when something went wrong, it didn't get passed around. It landed on them. Because of that responsibility, construction prices evolved differently than most people realize. Builders didn't ask, how much does the labor cost? They asked, who is responsible if this does not work? Costs were separated into two categories: the direct cost of the work, labor and materials, and the indirect cost of making the project function. That second category is where overhead and profit were born. Overhead covered the cost of running a business, offices, tools, insurance, supervision, administrative labor. Profit wasn't a reward. It was compensation for carrying responsibility, for being the person it landed on when something went wrong. If you were responsible for the outcome, your pricing reflected that burden. If you weren't, it didn't. That distinction was understood long before it was ever debated. Fast forward to the mid-1900s. As cities expanded and construction became more complex, the role of the general contractor became formalized. Construction management emerged as a discipline. Textbooks, trade organizations, and professional standards all recognize the same reality. Managing work is work. By this point, overhead and profit weren't controversial. They were assumed because responsibility was assumed. Insurance entered the picture much later. As property insurance expanded after World War II, claims increasingly relied on construction pricing to restore losses. Insurance didn't invent a new system. They adopted an existing one because a claim wasn't about replacing materials. It was about restoring a structure through coordinated work. Early insurance estimates reflected that understanding. Overhead and profit were applied through judgment, not percentages. Adjusters evaluated questions like, how many moving parts are involved? Who's coordinating the work? What responsibility exists beyond labor alone? There was no universal number. There was context. The real shift came in the late 20th century with the rise of estimating software and standardized pricing models. Consistency became necessary, speed became necessary, and volume increased. And with that, overhead and profit became simplified. What had once required individual judgment now needed to move at a scale. A concept rooted in responsibility became a shortcut. What had once been why became how much. 10 and 10 didn't appear because it was perfect. It appeared because it was repeatable. This is where the misunderstanding began. And as disputes increased, courts were pulled in. Judges weren't asked to decide percentages, they were asked to decide reasonableness. And over time, courts consistently returned to the same idea. Overhead and profit is not automatic, but it is appropriate when complexity and management are present. Judges focus on questions like, does the scope require coordination of multiple trades? Is supervision reasonably necessary? Is someone carrying responsibility for the entire outcome? Notice what they did not focus on. They did not focus on software rules. They did not focus on fixed percentages. They focused on responsibility. That's the through line. From early construction to insurance adoption to modern court rulings, overhead and profit has always been tied to who manages the job, not how much is being claimed. Today, most arguments about overhead and profit miss this entirely. They argue numbers, they argue thresholds, they argue rules. But the real question has never changed. Who is responsible for the outcome? What coordination exists that isn't obvious? And what work is happening between these line items? That is the art of noticing. And once you understand where overhead and profit come from and who it was designed to account for, you will always be arguing the wrong conversation. This was never about percentage. It was always about responsibility. Someone always has to carry the burden. The problem is, most people never see it. Magna makes it visible. Oh, and one final thought. Throughout this video, I placed subtle details most people would overlook. Not for entertainment, but to make a point. If you notice them, you already understand something that other people miss. If you think you discovered the hidden message, make sure to send us a private message with the details. I'll select one response to receive a private Magna supplement review and $150 Visa gift card. Because in construction, insurance, and business, the most important truths are rarely announced. They're noticed.